Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. With this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing the GeForce GTX 1066GB model in Ghost of Tsushima. This one is the MSI Gaming X version of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Up's GPU-Z, and again, it's the 6GB version of the 1060. And over on the left, we're pairing it with a Ryzen 5 3600X, which is basically the same CPU as the recommended requirements for this game, and 32GB of DDR4 3200 MHz RAM in dual channel CL14. Let's get into it, shall we? Okay, first up, let's go over the settings here in the launcher. I'm starting at 1080p resolution. I'm gonna disable the upscaling at the moment, play a little bit with TAA. I'm also going to disable the dynamic resolution scale, so we're at native resolution, VSync as well, and on the graphics settings, it defaults to medium with this GPU. So we're gonna go with that, just disabling motion blur here. Let's do this. And here we have it, 30-ish frames per second. That's pretty decent, but honestly, I think we are CPU bound right here, guys. 1060 is at around 80 to 100% usage at the moment. So, what? Are you kidding me? Like, looking at the sky, kind of the same thing. Okay, yeah, so I guess the recommended requirements on the CPU side of things is for 30 FPS, and I guess we will need to upgrade the CPU if we want to see more frames per second. Still, I'm gonna play like this for a little bit, guys, and then enable like frame generation and stuff like that. It's certainly very smooth right now, and the RAM utilization, or the VRAM utilization actually, is only at 3-point-something gigabytes, so that means that the 6 gigabytes of VRAM on this 1060 is definitely enough for medium settings at 1080p resolution. And you know, if it wasn't for the TAA, the anti-aliasing here in this game, it would look really good. I wish it supported DLAA, guys, because that's a lot better looking in this particular title than the TAA implementation. It's very shimmery like this. Come on, come on. Okay, it's dropping into the 30s sometimes. What is going on there? Oh boy, that's not ideal, is it, guys? You know what? I'm gonna try to fix the GPU utilization thing. I can't believe 3600X is bottlenecking at 1060. Come on. Let me see. If it can't reach 60 FPS right here with the dynamic resolution scaling, that means that there is a CPU bottleneck. And yep, it can't really reach 60 FPS. GPU usage is a little bit lower than it was before, I think. Maybe kind of the same, actually, but yeah, this is definitely eye-opening, guys. You will need quite a beefy CPU if you want to play this game at above 30 frames per second, unfortunately. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I want to test the GPU here, so I'll need to check it out in my other system with the Ryzen 9. And here we have it. I installed the 1060 now in the Ryzen 9 7950X 3D system with half of the cores disabled, so it's basically the same as a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. Still 32 gigabytes, but this time it's DDR5 6000 MHz RAM. And yeah, you can see all of the GPU specs and so on right here. And going into the game, you can see that the GPU usage is still not maxed out. It's definitely better than it was on the 3600X system, but it's hovering around like 93 to 94%, maybe 95 at times. That's very weird, and it's getting around the same FPS as well, so maybe the game just wasn't really that well optimized for Pascal GPUs to take full advantage of them, but I guess like Red Dead Redemption 2 actually does exactly the same thing with Nvidia GPUs. They run at like 94, 95% most of the time, especially at 1080p resolution. Power utilization seems to be in line with other games, so it should be fine now, okay? Just remember, if you have something like a 3600X, it might be a little bit CPU bound. We're playing at 1080p still, exactly the same settings, TAA over here on the anti-aliasing, and on the graphics settings, it's the medium preset. And let's start counting our FPS now that we are 100% sure that we don't have a bottleneck in the system, of course. Alright, so this is a little standoff right now. Come on. Well, let's go. There it is. Standoff is won. Very good. I like those animations, guys. It actually feels really nice. Okay, let's go ahead, start fighting these bastards. We're getting around like 30 FPS. Obviously, fully GPU bound at this point. Yeah, look at that CPU usage, though. It's in the single digits at the moment. Okay, come on. All right, get these bastards. All right. Also, the minimum requirements for this game ask for a Ryzen 3 1200 and an i3 7100. And if it performed like that, you know, with like 45 FPS at most with the 3600X, I am not seeing how the game runs well on its minimum requirements, you know. We definitely need to check that out. Unfortunately, I don't have the Ryzen 3 1200 or the i3 7100, so we'll need to wait a little bit until I get those parts in for testing. But in terms of CPU requirements, at least from what we saw in this video, I'm not sure if they're correct. Look at that, by the way. Beautiful lighting over here. I really like the colors in this game as well. It's pretty nice, actually. 1% lows are at 27, guys. Yeah, that's a little bit worrying. That's because it was stuttering a little bit on that frame time, you know. I saw some variation right there while we were fighting the other guys. But it's not to the point where it becomes unplayable. And if you lock the FPS to 30 all of the time, especially with like Nvidia Control Panel or Turner's Statistics Server, it will definitely become a really stable and smooth experience. So the 1060 is still capable of playing this game absolutely fine, but it is underperforming a little bit, especially after seeing what the 3060 can do. I thought the 1060 would do a little bit better of a job. Still, these medium settings at 1080p resolution, so it might get a little bit better later on when we test like low settings at this res. Let's stop it right there. It seems like the 1% lows have stabilized a little bit now that we're not fighting anyone and we're just running over here. Actually, I should call Roach as well. Hello, buddy. How's it going? And I'm gonna go ahead and try some other form of anti-aliasing here because that TAA just isn't cutting it, guys, okay? Let's see it with SMAA T2X. Now it's still super shimmery with this, although it's not soft now, so you could say it actually does look a little bit better. Although right now you can see a lot of shimmering on top of the trees, on the leaves, you know. Yeah, it's definitely very aliased, guys, of course, because SMAA T2X doesn't blur the image to get rid of the aliasing. It's a different technique, you know, to what we are used to with TAA. Although I like it more. I'm not gonna lie, if I had to choose between TAA and SMAA T2X or 2X, whatever, I would choose this instead because it makes things sharp. It doesn't lose the detail to softness, you know. And on a smaller 1080p, like 24-inch panel, for example, it should look pretty crispy and not soft. So there's that. But this is still not what I'd like to see. And also the difference in FPS between TAA and SMAA T2X is pretty much like 1 FPS in the favor of TAA, I think. Now let's try it with FSR Native AA. It seems like we lost like 2 FPS from what we were seeing with the SMAA T2X. Okay, so the FSR 3's AA is definitely better than TAA. And I think it's also better than what we saw with SMAA T2X. So this is what I'd use, guys. You lose like 1 or 2 FPS compared to the other options, but I think it's worth it because, again, it looks quite a bit better. You don't have shimmery trees at the distance, and the graphics are still sharp enough as well. You also don't have a lot of pixelation around moving things and the grass and so on like you usually see with FSR. I think we're in for a good run here with FSR in this game. It's a good implementation of FSR. That's nice to see. It was also a very good implementation of DLSS from what I've seen with the other videos that we made. Anyway, around here you can see in the woods area 32 frames per second down to like 31 sometimes. It is stable, 29 right there. Unfortunately, it will dip down into the 20s sometimes. Look at that, 28. Okay, seems like these vegetations here, these flowers, are very intensive. Since it does dip down into the 20s, which is kind of expected given that FSR 3's AA is a little bit more intensive than TAA, I will try enabling some frame generation. Now, the frame generation from AMD, at least FSR 3 frame generation, isn't as good as the Nvidia's frame generation in this title. Sometimes if you move the camera fast like this, it doesn't kick in for some reason, and you can see it in the frame time graph. Sometimes we got little spikes there, which mean that it's just not working properly, you know? Maybe they need to iron out something. It does give you 30 plus FPS most of the time, but with some pretty bad input lag, so I wouldn't really do this, guys. It might seem like it's better, but in reality, with the stuttering that you see right now in the frame time, and the input lag, it's just a worse experience. So there's no point in utilizing FSR 3 frame generation unless you have a baseline of like 50 or 60 frames per second in this particular title. Let's disable it, and I'm gonna try some FSR 3 on quality instead. Since the FSR 3 native was so good, I am hoping that this isn't too pixelated and it actually looks good. And I think this is exactly what we're getting here. So we're achieving around the same FPS as with frame generation over native AA, but now these are true 40 FPS, and as you can see, much more stable frame time, no major stuttering issues by turning the camera around. Let's fight these guys over here. And the FSR 3 on quality means that we should now get 30 plus 100% of the time. It's not as big of an improvement as I wish it was. Like, in some games we see 20 more FPS when enabling that FSR quality. In this one it's like 10 FPS at maximum, maybe a little bit less than that even. But hey, it is working pretty well. You can see there's a little bit more pixelation and noise around the character running over here in these fields. That's definitely very noticeable, but again, on a 24-inch 1080p monitor, it might look alright. So I think I would play like this. If you really want those medium settings, this is the way to go. FSR 3 on quality does look passable, let's say. And now we're sure that it won't drop from 30 frames per second at all. It's taking a really long time for that sun to come up, right? Holy crap. I want to see the beautiful, vibrant greens right now of the grass and so on. And it's really, really dark at the moment. Ooh, look at that frame time graph. What is going on right here? That is weird. It seems like when we approach settlements or areas with a lot of enemies, it starts doing that to the frame time graph. We've seen it right where we started, right? It was a little bit of a smaller camp or whatever, but it still showed some frame time inconsistencies. So unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit inconsistent on these older GPUs. Kind of to be expected again, because 1060 is now 8 years old, almost. No, it's 7 years old, actually, I think. But yeah, it's still a little bit of a shame to see. Nevertheless, I think it's not the end of the world. Like, yes, the frame time is weird, but the smoothness is still there. Like, I can't really feel those micro stutters at all. It feels nice and even, like the movement right here while panning the camera around. Doesn't feel stuttery at all, so I think you're still good for a decent experience, even with a GTX 1060, guys. Just remember, CPU will also matter, and you'll need something like a Ryzen 5 5600, for example, which is definitely quite a bit faster than the 3600X that we tried it prior to this. Let's venture out into these woods. Ooh, they are very shimmery right now with FSR 3 on quality, guys. Come on, Roach, where are you? Roach, I need you. I need you to come to me. All right, there he is. Come over here. Where are you going? Roach, don't run away, please. Oh boy, see that frame time graph, by the way? We got out of that area and now it's smoothed out considerably. It's really weird. What is going on here? Hello? Okay. Assassin's Creed moment right there. Who are you? I have not seen guys like you yet. Usually they're wearing white. Come on. Oh, God. Okay, these are a little bit tougher, but we got this. What were you doing in the middle of the ooh, that's beautiful. The middle of the bridge. What the heck? I thought you were dead. No, he killed us. I really thought he was dead. Oh, never mind. Well, at least we are here, and it's beautiful now. Okay, so that's it for the medium settings, guys. And I'm gonna go back to native resolution and use the low settings preset right now. I'm still going to keep the texture quality on medium because Well, the 6 gigabytes of VRAM seem to be enough for that. And now let's restart the game to fully apply everything. And here we have it. Native resolution, low settings. It still has the very low settings preset below this one, by the way. So that's probably why they recommend, for the minimum requirements, a GTX 960. I was really surprised to see a GTX 960, which is a 10-year-old GPU at this point, in the minimum requirements of this game. That's probably why I expected the GTX 1060 to do a little bit better than it's doing right now, because I was kind of expecting like 1080p, low settings, 30 FPS with a 960, and it's probably 720p 30 FPS that they're aiming for, just like in Horizon Forbidden West. Still, that's pretty impressive that a 10-year-old GPU will be able to play this one, and I definitely need to check that out, you know? Anyway, around here, it is dropping down into like the low 30s at times. It doesn't seem to be getting that many more FPS than what we saw at the 1080p medium settings, but it's also very similar visual fidelity-wise to 1080p medium settings, you know? I think we have a little bit less leaves flying around and stuff like that, and maybe the details at the distance aren't as good as medium, but medium textures are still here, so it doesn't end up looking like crap. You know, it's still pretty nice and a pretty cool art style after all. It's just unfortunate that we can't really get 60 FPS with the GTX 1060. I doubt that even with enabling FSR on performance, it will get 60 FPS plus, you know, and FSR performance at 1080p is pretty rough, so I wouldn't really do that anyways. There are some enemies, so let's fight them bastards. Get over here. Get over here. I'm luring them out in the open to kill all of them. There we go. Oh, boy. Okay. Okay. All right. They seem to be a little bit tougher once again than the ones wearing white. Come on. There we go. But I still got this, my friends. The perks of playing at the easiest difficulty. Right now getting 30 still. Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that it won't really drop from 30 FPS using these settings. 1060 still showing some muscle some 8 years later. That's kind of insane, right? You'd think that any game coming out in 2024, well, 1060 can't really run it, right? Not the case. Some games, if they're well optimized, they will run okay. And I think this is a little bit worse optimized than something like Forbidden West, because Horizon Forbidden West does look better than this, considerably better, especially on medium settings. And the GTX 1060, if I remember correctly, it was also pushing around these frames at 1080p low or medium, even medium maybe. I don't know. And I think this is where we came from, you know, from that big city that I want to check out. This is the bridge where we died. Yeah, it's right there. So we're gonna see the FPS there as well. And here we are, guys, 35 frames per second. There is no one. No, I heard him. Hello? Hello, come to me. Come to me, guys. Fight me, please. I need you to cause a bit of a mess right here. I need all of you, in fact, over here in the middle. It doesn't seem to be bad at all, guys. Like, at medium settings, you saw that the frame time was all over the place. Now, like 5 guys over here in the middle of this, it is starting to get a little bit micro-stuttery, you know, in the frame time graph. Slight little variations there, but it still doesn't feel bad. Even on medium settings, it didn't feel bad, so... Yeah, but it's good to see that it's a little bit more stable with the low settings compared to medium settings. And since it doesn't make that big of a difference, God, to the visuals, again, this is the better way to play this game. Get over here, you... Okay, maybe the guys wearing white are just as hard to kill as the other ones. I just suck at it sometimes, so yeah. Sometimes, however, when turning the camera around really fast with the micro-stuttering, it isn't really that great. And again, if you just go ahead and use Rivet Tuner, for example, to lock your FPS to 30, those micro-stutters will be gone, as you can see, and you end up with a flat frame time graph, no problems whatsoever, very, very smooth experience. So I'd probably end up doing that as well, since we are getting like between 30 and 40 most of the time. Locking it to 30 is a good option. Maybe add a little bit of motion blur at the same time and play with the controller, and you'll have like a PS4 experience, for example. Even on medium settings, you know, it will dip down into the high 20s sometimes on medium settings, but yeah, now I have unlocked the FPS once again, and I want to check it out again with upscaling here. FSR 3 on quality. It's 3.0, by the way, not 3.1. Some person actually asked me about it in the comments. It's getting 50 FPS here on low settings. It's a little bit smoother than medium settings was. Still not amazing, though. It actually gives me hope that we can actually achieve 60 with the performance FSR, but again, performance FSR looks pretty rough, so you probably don't want to do that. Just stick to quality right here. It's smooth enough for a single player title. Actually, even 30 FPS is all right for a single player title, so there's that, guys. But yeah, 50 definitely feels way better after playing with 30 for so long. It's a well-optimized game, you know. Maybe it should have been better. Yeah, because games like Red Dead Redemption 2 can look better and perform better at the same time. But considering everything that we have out there, I think this lands in the well-optimized games. God! Okay, I don't have any more healing. Come on. There we go. Killed the big boy. Come on. Aren't you afraid? You should be afraid that I killed your boss or whatever. Come on. There we go. Good stuff. And now you, yeah, keep attacking the air. The air is the enemy here, not me. Actually, they're the enemies, because we were living peacefully around this town, and they came in, invaded us, and started killing everyone. Flipping bastards, you know, look at that. Destroying some houses and stuff. Why? Why are you doing that? That's what you deserve now. Heal yourself. How do I have healing? Does it actually regenerate the healing potions over time? Maybe. Now let's stop it there, guys, and I will enable frame generation on top of FSR 3 as well, just because some of you might want to see what happens. It's not that much better. You get like, what, 5 more FPS, maybe 10 more FPS? It feels worse. Yeah, you're turning your camera around with the input lag of 25 FPS or like 30 FPS at best. It doesn't feel good, guys. You should not play this game with frame generation or FSR frame generation, at least with the 1060 tier of GPU. It's not worth it at all. And once again, we got those huge spikes there, which don't make any sense, you know? I don't know why AMD hasn't figured out the frame generation stuff yet. Like, why does this happen? I don't see this happening with the Nvidia frame generation. Let's check it out on performance FSR, though. And here we go. We can actually achieve those 60 FPS, although not for a long period of time. Wow, it feels so smooth right now, but it definitely is a heck of a lot more pixelated when you are moving the camera around and stuff. You know what? I'm gonna grab Roach's friend. I don't even know where he is right now. And we haven't found Jack yet. Is there a Jack? Have you played this game, by the way? If you have played this game on console, let me know if there's a Jack in this one. I wouldn't really consider playing like this unless you have a very small monitor and you can't see all of the pixelation that's happening. Look at the tree line above, above the hill there. Look at that. It's all flickering and pixelated. It's really bad looking. Although things very close to you are actually pretty detailed still, which is impressive considering that we're playing at 540p internally and upscaling to 1080p. But again, this is definitely something that I'd avoid. Use quality if you want smooth experience. Not going to be the smoothest thing in the world, but it's going to work fine, as I told you and as you saw. And use 1080p low settings with 30 FPS locked if you want that 30 FPS experience and you still want decent enough visuals. So that's been it for this one. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I hope it was informative and useful. Let me know if you're buying this game to play on your GTX 1060. I'll catch you in the next one very soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.